Afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and kick it off now. So I'm going to go through some housekeeping here. This is a partner spotlight, our Wednesday webinar at XenTegra. Going to do some housekeeping stuff, and then we'll hand it over to the Fortinet team to be able to showcase their content today. So with that, let me move some windows around. First thing I want to bring up is the XenTegra Work Has No Boundaries giveaway that's happening. If you use the QR code down there in the corner, you'll be able to connect to the website and to be able to enter for the raffle for a brand new Ford Bronco that will be later this year, announcing finalists for. In order to meet requirements, there's some additional steps. You'll see that link there on the page to be able to do some follow-up conversation with us and the Fortinet team, or with other things such as our micro assessments we do for networking and other things within the digital workspace. So definitely take advantage of this. Get a free car, so it's a cool thing. I'm not allowed to get it, so at least somebody will get it better. Also, for today, we have a giveaway vouchers for Grubhub. You should expect to see those around 2 p.m. today in your mailboxes, Eastern time. What's going to happen is within the first 15 minutes or so, we're going to go ahead and collect up the participants that are here today with us, and then you'll be receiving your vouchers. So look for that no later than 2 p.m. today in your inboxes. So let's go a little bit into XenTegra and who we are. If you're not aware, give you some background here. If you are aware, it's a refresher for you. So we're a service provider. We meet professional services, reseller of licensing hardware, professional services from implementation and solutions. We deal with the digital workspace within that digital transformation from your environments, everything from the edge into the core to the hardware level, and also into public clouds. So we came from our founder, Andy Whiteside, who you see underneath of me in the slide deck here. Andy was a solutions architect at Citrix for several years, and he saw that there was a lack of enablement and partnership growing with customers in our field. And he broke off because he saw that there was advantages there to be able to help educate the customers. And I say customers initially, so you're aware of this, but we treat everybody as a partner. We look at the partnership with our customers and our partners in solutions as one community to be able to distribute it out these solutions to meet your business needs for your customers, your end users, or whoever you need to meet for your solutions. Within XenTegra, and the enablement is kind of a theme here. You'll see we're value-added reseller working with some of our key partners and solutions that are out there. We also do professional services. We provide that from the public cloud side of the house, public sector, also your on-prem solutions, everything that you're looking at from that digital workspace out to the endpoint, so the edge to the endpoint of the user. We do these consulting services from an architectural level. It's actually getting in and helping you to work together within a deployment or building of this solution. What I like to emphasize is we don't work within a vacuum. Again, coming back to this enablement side of the house, we want to make sure that you understand the solutions that we're incorporating for you and your environments. So we make sure that we're working in tandem with your teams to educate them on what the solution is being delivered. And then also, so you've got that understanding of where you're going and why you're doing these things based off of our recommendations in these solutions. So that way you can focus on those business strategies and know where you need to go to next and how you can meet those needs. We also provide managed services. So that would be a standpoint of we can manage your environment within the data centers on-prem. We can also support you within our co-located environment within our XenTegra cloud and support and host your environment there. We can also do that within the public clouds. And then we also offer complimentary assessments, which is our micro assessments. Again, you can see that link from the page there on the work has no boundaries. That's one of the requirements you can do to meet for the entrance for the car. That micro assessment is where you're working with myself or my counterparts, where we come in and we'll do some quick assessments of the environment. It's not deep dive, but it's some high level to give you some recommendations and a SWOT analysis of our findings, and then you can really execute where you go from there. And then you'll see our strategic partners here. Fortinet, I've got to add your logo to this slide. I do apologize. But these are some of our core partners. Again, if you go to our webpage, you'll be able to see the community of partners that we work with in delivering solutions for you and your customers. Now, who am I? I'm your knucklehead ringmaster for today, John Spallone. I've been in the industry now for 26 plus years. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, but I work everywhere. I've actually worked in a remote office for about 13 years, so I don't know a home office anymore. So I do consider myself a nerd nomadic. So I've got recently coming from Citrix. I worked there 6+ years on the global enablement team. And again, there's that theme, enablement, where I worked with educating technical resources, both internal to Citrix, the partner community, and customers of EUC in the cloud and Citrix cloud solutions in the public cloud and also in private clouds. Everything across the board, integration architect, engineering, the solutions architect, and right down to consultant on deployment of projects. A dad joke, I'm not going to kill you with that, but my kids love my dad jokes. I'm always texting them that. They hate me, but they still love them. And then I try to balance my lifestyle between this zen-ness of my geekery and nerdery. My new office, once I get that ready, you'll be able to see the nerdery I'm talking about, because I'll finally have everything decked out in the office. But I have a good balance between the tech side and my nerd side. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the Fortinet team. If you guys want to take control here, I will stop sharing my screen. Oh, one other thing, reminder, everybody, if you do have any questions, please post them in the Q&A section. It's easier for us to track than in chat, so I'd appreciate that.
Super. I guess I'll get rolling here. John, thanks for the introduction.
Sure thing.
And thanks to all of those who've worked to put together this webinar. None of these things happen without a lot of effort on the back end, I know, and greatly appreciate everything that has been done to put this all together and to make this a successful webinar. And thank you to our partners, XenTegra, for having us on. Always love working with the XenTegra team. So my name's Kevin Mahoney. I'm the Senior Director of Enhanced Technologies Fortinet. So I work with our new and emerging technologies sales-focused teams. And today we're going to talk about the Fortinet Security Fabric. We're going to talk about the Fortinet Security Fabric and how it's different from essentially building your own fabric. And also we're going to talk about a new buzzword that's been popping up a lot, cybersecurity mesh architecture, and kind of talk about how Fortinet's been doing this for a long time, but Gartner is starting to talk about cybersecurity mesh, and it really is a logical architecture, makes a lot of sense, and we're happy about it, like I said, because we've been doing it for a long time. At the end of my presentation, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Rebecca, who is going to talk about our cyber threat assessment program. Okay, let's get rolling. So hopefully you're familiar with Fortinet to some degree. Fortinet's been in the cybersecurity industry really since the very beginning. We are really the top cybersecurity company in the world, and we don't say that just because we think we're cool, which we do, but when you look at the number of devices deployed, the number of customers, the number of industry validations, the number of patents that have been issued, we're the only pure cybersecurity company that exists on both the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500. And we've been doing this, like I said, for over 20 years now, and have a huge, broad portfolio of integrated fabric products that we're going to talk about in the presentation today. So I like to kind of give just a little bit of where Fortinet came from, give you some idea of, you know, what our DNA is in terms of history in the cybersecurity world. When firewalling first started, it's kind of the first security product that emerged on the market 30 plus years ago. And back then, firewalling was fairly simple. The market was nascent, and really the only traffic on the network at that time was green screen terminals connecting to a mainframe. So really, all a firewall had to do was look at the network address and the TCP or UDP port, and make a decision as to whether or not it was going to allow that traffic. Pretty simple. And during that time, there were a couple of very large vendors, names that you would recognize if I mentioned them, that had a chokehold on the firewall market. And really, there was no space for a new competitor in the market. But there was a group of engineers that got together and decided they were going to start a firewall company. Kind of crazy, be like some of us getting together and starting a new operating system company today. We get laughed out of the room. And these engineers did, in fact, get laughed at a few times. But they started the company up, a company by the name of NetScreen. And they started NetScreen with a real simple concept. And that was, instead of taking off the shelf hardware and putting some software on it, they were going to build their own processors, which they did and were highly successful. Any of you that have been in the industry that long to remember the name NetScreen, remember that it was the absolute fastest firewall on the market. Company was highly successful, so successful, in fact, that Juniper bought NetScreen in the late 90s for around $4 billion. One of those engineers had a little bit of a philosophical disagreement with the management at NetScreen, as the company began to grow and the original engineers began to lose control of the company. NetScreen really wanted to go all in on VPN. They were putting all their R&D dollars, all their engineering time on VPN technology. This was right around 2000, where the internet was emerging. And so that one engineer, guy by the name of Ken G, decided that he thought it was important that firewalls move to the next level, more than just looking at the connection, but actually looking at the content and seeing what is in the content of that connection that the user's making. As users were beginning to connect to the internet, there were questions like, do I want my user going to that website? Do I want them downloading that file? Does that file have malware or a virus in it? And so all of these things prompted Ken to leave NetScreen, and he and his brother Michael co-founded Fortinet in 2000 and pioneered the next generation firewall industry, came out with the world's first next generation firewall. And that was looking at the content that was coming over the connection rather than just looking at the connection itself alone. Thankfully for all of us at Fortinet, they did not stop with just a firewall, but continued to develop other products to inspect traffic in other relevant areas, such as email and endpoint, and built out a collection of technologies into a security fabric. And so now we are in the middle of that, what we call the third generation of network security evolution. And so our DNA has always been high engineering development, building our own processors. In fact, we're the only next gen firewall that builds our own processors. When Ken and Michael started Fortinet, they started it with the same concept that NetScreen was started with, and that was to build our own. And so no other vendor today builds their own processors. They use off-the-shelf hardware, which allows us to get orders of magnitude better performance in a smaller footprint that uses less power and still is able to keep up with the demands of today's inspection of traffic on the network. All of that engineering DNA has led to a lot of industry recognition. We're recognized in many, many Gartner Magic Quadrants and market guides, Forrester, IDC, Frost & Sullivan, you name the analyst firm, we've received recognition from them for our technology, and not just our firewalls, but in multiple areas of technology. We are in 3 Gartner Magic Quadrants that basically cover a single platform for us. So network firewalls, wired and wireless LAN infrastructure and WAN edge, our SD-WAN technology, our switching and wireless, which is integrated into our firewall as the management platform, all together And as I mentioned, we've been recognized in those 3 Magic Quadrants, and we just recently were recognized again in the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant for network firewall. So that's a little bit of a background overnet of Fortinet. And now I want to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing, the challenges associated with those trends, and what the Fortinet security fabric was designed to solve. So first of all, from a trend perspective, when I talk with customers, when the folks here at Fortinet talk with customers, we're seeing these 4 trends emerge. Number 1 is work from anywhere. All of us are familiar with it. Since the pandemic, there's been a massive shift to work from home and to really work from anywhere. You know, I want to be able to connect securely and get my data no matter where I am. If I'm in a coffee shop, if I'm remote at home or on vacation, wherever I am, I want to be able to have access to my data. And we're seeing that happen. The increase is expected to only continue going forward. Securing digital acceleration. Digital transformation was a buzzword before the pandemic, but since the pandemic, many businesses have accelerated their digital transformation of their business. Cyber attacks are growing in sophistication. Bad actors today don't even have to create their own malware. They can go on the dark web and buy malware as a service or buy a piece of malware. It's very easy. And so they're starting to use things like AI and machine learning, which is increasing the sophistication of their attacks. And then lastly, there's a shortage of cybersecurity talent, which is great for all of us being in the cybersecurity industry, but it creates challenges for organizations because they don't have the talent that they need. Many organizations have admitted they have had some type of intrusion or breach that was attributed, at least in part, to a gap in the cybersecurity skills. Either they didn't have the people, or the people they had were less skilled than they liked, but they were what was available. And so because of those trends that we're seeing, there are a lot of challenges that are being created as well. When we look at users and devices, there are now many devices that never used to have connectivity, that we never had to worry about, that now do have connectivity. Everything from fryers in a fast food restaurant to operational technology on a machine shop floor that now are connected to the network and now become points of vulnerability that I must make sure are secured. And then users going home and working off of commercial grade network security devices, networking and wireless, and we need to have that security that they have at work in the office extend all the way out to home. Users are traveling, their data lives everywhere, they're all over the place, and so trying to secure users and devices becomes a constant challenge. The perimeter has significantly expanded on the network. Go rewind 20, 30 years ago, and we had everything in a data center. The servers were all physical. They lived on one network, and that network was connected to the rest of the world through a firewall. And the firewall protected everything. That was my perimeter. But today, the perimeter does not exist in one location. The perimeter hasn't disappeared. It just lives everywhere. 5G, remote SD-WAN connections, users working from home. We have all these edges now that must be secured. Applications are moving. As I mentioned earlier, rewind a few years and all of my applications lived on physical servers in 1 or 2 data centers. Now those applications live in hosted environments, in the cloud, and maybe they're SaaS applications. So all of these applications are out there, and they're constantly moving. Location and connectivity demands are there for them to be able to connect, and I have to be able to deal with the operational challenges that result from the applications moving and being in multiple environments. And then security operations, the volume, and I talk with customers about the volume of alerts that come in on a daily basis. It's overwhelming. When I ask, how many alerts do you get? Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, and they're coming in quickly, and many times a human has to parse through them to try to make sense of them and try to figure out which alerts are real and which alerts are not. And as I mentioned, attackers are continuing to leverage AI, machine learning, uh, learning to use devices like Samsung TVs and others to create swarms of AI bots that can work together and attack an organization at multiple places simultaneously. And so all of those challenges really have driven the development of the Fortinet security fabric. The Fortinet security fabric, when it was created, and as it has evolved over time, the singular vision was to address the three major areas of challenge that our founders saw. First of all, the challenge was a huge attack surface, and that was growing. Obviously, the attack surface is radically different than it was in 2000 when Fortinet was founded. But our founders set a vision to see that the attack surface would continue to expand, it would continue to change in nature, and that there would be this need to have visibility across that attack surface and to protect that attack surface. And so the Fortinet security fabric does just that. It is broad in that we have technologies available to protect every area of the attack surface, whether it's the data center, the cloud, remote users, operational technology, etc. We can protect the entire attack surface and provide visibility through our management platforms to see what is going on inside of the attack surface. Second area that the Fortinet security fabric was designed to address was the fact that when we see customers building their own fabric, so to speak, it's built with point products. Buy the best of breed for email, and another technology for endpoint, and another technology for web application firewalling, and on and on and on. And so you end up with these dozens of tools, none of which share actionable intelligence, none of which communicate with one another. And so you dump everything to a SIM and then try to hire people to write rules and alerts and try to make sense of all the data. Whereas if simply those devices natively talk to one another out of the box, it would greatly simplify the security operations of an organization. And that's just what the Fortinet security fabric does. It integrates together so that if my endpoint sees a day zero threat and we catch it, immediately I update email security, web application firewalls, network firewalls, all of the devices in the fabric immediately are updated with that threat intelligence with integration that is out of the box rather than having to try to do it manually. And then lastly, the goal of that is to take an automated action. With the shortage of cybersecurity talent, it's hard to try and depend on a person to acknowledge every alert and to take an action on actionable alerts. The Fortinet security fabric is designed to take automated actions so that if an attacker does attempt to get in and they come in through one vector on the attack surface, we can immediately take an automated action to stop them and then continue to spread that intelligence to the rest of the attack surface. We have a very expansive ecosystem of cybersecurity partners. There are partners that integrate into the security fabric, over 200 of them that have deep integrations that are out of the box that we've worked with. And these are typically best of breed technology partners, typically Gartner Magic Quadrant leading partners that we work together with to integrate into the fabric, which means that you don't have to buy everything from Fortinet, although we would love that. You don't have to buy everything from Fortinet. We realize customers have investments in existing technologies, that there are niche products that may be unique to their environment. And so we have a very open ecosystem that allows integration with other technologies as well. So I talked about the cybersecurity mesh architecture earlier, and Gartner's recently released this guide to the cybersecurity mesh. And in this guide, they basically said, everything should be connected together with everything else and sharing threat intelligence. Well, gee, that looks a lot like what the Fortinet Security Fabric is. Everything connected to everything else, sharing threat intelligence, which is what we've been doing for many years now. And Gartner's not saying that, hey, you need to go to single vendor, but what they're saying is you should consolidate down to a handful of platforms. Instead of having 20, 30, 40, 50 point products, as I mentioned earlier, that all dump everything to a SIM, then to try to make sense of it, Gartner says you should look at moving to a handful, maybe 4 to 6 platforms that work together. So maybe you pick one platform for network driven security, maybe one platform for application security, another for endpoints and users. And so Gartner says that's the way that they feel that the industry should move to enhance security in the environment. Mentioned the Fortinet Security Fabric. It's over 10 years now that we have been developing the fabric and adding technologies to the fabric. Excuse me, gaining more and more things into the fabric, such as visibility, automation, recently zero trust, and the feature richness of the fabric has been growing over time, and Gartner's just now starting to kind of validate what we've been doing for a long time. The Fortinet Security Fabric is a mesh platform. If you look at the key tenets of a mesh platform, it's identity access and content control, security intelligence, and policy management. Fortinet has a component of our security fabric that addresses each of those. This is a little bit of an eye chart. Don't need to learn or read everything on here. But basically what it shows is that Gartner shows the different areas of technology that need to be there for protection. They're in the middle, and Fortinet has a relevant technology in each of those areas that Gartner has mentioned. This slide shows the products that are in the fabric portfolio. This is not an exhaustive list of every product that Fortinet sells, but all of these products are Fortinet products that are in the fabric. In that, as I mentioned earlier, they provide coverage for the entirety of the attack surface and visibility. They share actionable threat intelligence, and they take automated action when something malicious does happen. So to summarize the fabric and the mesh architecture, Gartner has been talking about the mesh and has said that, within the next few years, that organizations that adopt a mesh architecture will reduce the impact of individual security incidents by an average of 90%, which is significant when you think about the fact that the average cost of a breach worldwide is $4 million. The average cost of a breach in the US is $8 million. And the ability to significantly reduce by 90% on average the cost of those incidents by using a mesh architecture. The Fortinet Security Fabric can help customers build that mesh architecture today. This is, Gartner's talking about it in theory. We are delivering it in practice. We have deep visibility across all of the edges, central management platform that allows us to consistently enforce policies, no matter where data or an application or a user exists. And we can automate response with the broadest, most integrated open ecosystem. And with that, I will pause and I guess take any questions there may be and turn it over to my colleague Rebecca to talk about our cyber threat assessment program.
Yeah, we've handled majority of the questions in Q&A, so I think we're good to go to move forward.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you. So to wrap up today, I wanted to take you through the cyber threat assessment program that we have available. And I encourage you to engage your XenTegra counterpart or team member to help kind of bring this into practice in your environment. It's made available to you. Kevin, let's go to the next slide, if you would. There we go. So the Cyber Threat Assessment Program, or CTAP for short, essentially what we're doing here is dropping in a live assessment program. It's very quick and it's very easy to deploy. The intent is to provide an in-depth analysis in a few key areas. Now there's 4 flavors to the assessment depending on what your area of focus is, but all of them are looking to have a handful of days of monitoring, and the output of that is to generate a detailed report that gives you an idea of what has made it onto your network in terms of security and threat identification, application visibility, as well as utilization and performance. So those are the 3 main areas that all of the reports and the assessments are going to provide for you. Each one, as you might imagine, is a slightly different flavor. So if we can go to the next slide, there's some commonality in the reports. There's kind of an executive summary or a high-level summary of what the findings are, and then drill down views with visualizations and recommendations on how to pivot off of what was observed. Okay. So if we could go to the next slide as well. So I think in terms of the 4 different assessment types, there's next-gen firewall assessment, there's email sandboxing, there's SD-WAN, and there's operational technology OT. So what we're actually looking for, what are we on the lookout for in each of those, referred to as the bad stuff, right? Certainly any malware or botnet that has made it through your protective provisions, we're going to be on the lookout for that. And each one has additional things that it's on the lookout for. So the next gen firewall one is also looking for specific applications that might be high risk, either because they tend to be the air cover for some type of attack attempt, or they're just heavy on the network, that type of thing. For emailing, we might be looking for malicious URLs or embedded things like that, impersonations or attempts through email, which of course is, we all know, is one of the most successful attack vectors is via email. So that's an excellent one to see what's kind of under the hood in the environment. For SD-WAN, we're also looking at unusual cloud app usage, heavy application concentration, things like that. And for OT, we add in kind of keeping our antenna up for devices that are making external connections. So that is something that would throw a flag up in an OT environment, and something to keep an eye on. So one of the benefits of the CTAP is that it's in your production environment. It does not have to be in line, so it can be completely passive and non-intrusive, but it gives you an idea of what might actually be coming through the provisions and the security landscape that you've already put in place in your environment. So if it finds nothing, that's a beautiful thing. It's great to validate that what the measures you're taking are being successful. However, chances are we might find something. In fact, if you go to the next slide, unfortunately, the percentage of when we actually find something in assessment is pretty high. About 2/3 of the time, we do actually find some of those bad items that I enumerated previously. And so the value of that is it's better to know what's happening. It's better to know what's coming through so that you can take measures to prepare yourself and to address the holes or gaps that might be in your security posture. So, in terms of an advertisement, I would say you're partnered with an excellent team at XenTegra, and we work arm in arm with them. So please don't hesitate to engage your XenTegra representative if you would like to take advantage of one of these CTAP programs. And with that, I think all of the formal presentation material from our side has run through. John, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks. All right, bringing my screen back up here. Got some quick items to address before we let everybody go. Just want to point out down below my head the QR code that takes you to our YouTube page where you'll find this recording later on out there. So if there's anything that you missed or you'd like to review again, you'll find that recording out there. All of our webinars are posted out there on our YouTube page, as well as our podcasts and some other content. So definitely go check that out. So with that, I don't think that we have any more questions. I'll just give that a second. Maybe one day my slide wants to change. There we go. We had a couple questions, got those answered, so I don't see anything more. So just for your understanding, coming up, we don't have any other webinars for this month coming up, but we do have 2 workshops. Nutanix File Workshop will be on February 17th at 11 a.m. And then the Liquidware FlexApp Workshop will be on the 21st at 1:30 p.m. If you go to the QR code that's down this way, you can go ahead and see our events page. That'll take you to the landing page, and you can register for the event there, as well as get information on other events that are coming up in the future here, not just from a technical briefing like what we're doing here, but in-person events. I do have one question that popped in real quick from Ted team. This question is what would you guys say is the hardest challenge going forward?
I'll say that from my perspective, the hardest challenge going forward is staying one step ahead of the bad guys, because they're constantly evolving. They're using artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so as a, as an end user trying to protect my environment against these bad guys, I've got to be on the cutting edge as well, using technologies that have artificial intelligence and machine learning in them so that we can stay one step ahead.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. All right. If there's any other questions, go ahead and pop them in. We can address them as they come up. All right. So now we got this stuff out of the way. Let's hit the next one. Reminder, the voucher giveaway. You should be seeing that by 2 p.m. today. One more question came in. Can Fortinet firewalls be customized to fit the needs of specific organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have the great thing about our technology from a firewall perspective is that we run the same operating system on our firewalls, whether it's our very, very small Soho box that's designed for a home office user or a small office supporting 2 or 3 users, all the way up to our data center chassis, all use the same operating system. And so you can customize the size of the firewall that you want, the types of ports that are on it, and a lot of the smaller boxes for remote branches have the capability to have integrated Wi-Fi. And then, of course, our software is award-winning. FortiOS allows you to fully customize your environment.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you jumping in so quickly on these. Any other questions? Give a couple of seconds here if anybody wants to pop in. Okay, because I know as soon as I go to this next slide, you guys are going to toss one out on me. I know you are. All right. So reminder, your vouchers will be in your inbox today. Expect them around 2 p.m. You had to be on board watching the webinar and attending in order to qualify for that voucher. And then also down below here, QR code, work has no boundaries. You can also find a link that our wonderful marketing people have put into the chat towards the beginning. Work has no boundaries. And definitely if you have more questions and want to dig deeper, we could set that up from the XenTegra standpoint. Like they said, reach out to your sales rep and we can help you to secure your environments, but help you also get keys to a new car. Not too bad. Yep. Is there a survey after this? I don't believe there will be one. I know that's something that we're working on overall from a XenTegra standpoint, but I would have to defer to our marketing. I don't know where that is right now, but I do expect some measurables to be coming out of this. All right. So with that, going once, going twice. Okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today. I really appreciate everybody attending. I really appreciate the interaction, some great questions today. And I appreciate the Fortinet team being here. Kevin, Rebecca, thank you for your presentations. Always great, always wonderful content. And look for this to be posted later down on our YouTube channel. Thanks everybody for taking the time with us today. And we look forward to seeing you in our next Spotlight.